And the best news is, I may be the shortest talk up here, okay? You've been here a long time, you've been here several hours. The organizers have done a splendid job, thank you very much. To the citizens of Del Norte County, you have a fantastic sheriff, and I want to tell you why. Hold up the applause, because it's going to be worth it. He represents you very well at the State Sheriff's Association because, as you know, he's not bashful either. Just the opposite. On the way up here, I was listening to one of your local radio stations, and your commercial was on there regarding your text messages of solving crimes. A very innovative way to do it. It's the first time in the state I've heard it being done, and I want to learn more about it today. He's an incredible representative of being a good family man, and thank you, Mary. It's great to see you and your whole family on these state sheriffs meetings there, and he's a very good example for the rest of the sheriffs to look at. So Dean, thanks for hosting this, and thanks for being who you are. If I said he was the most senior sheriff up here, I don't mean he's the oldest, because I don't know the answer, but he is the most experienced elected sheriff that we have, and that means a lot at state sheriff's meetings. When Dean Wilson speaks, people listen, and that's very, very good. So you've heard who we are, you've heard a little bit who we aren't, and I want to cover that a little bit more, because I know there's video cameras going, and there have been people who have edited some of our presentations, and they've turned it into really who we aren't, and they've put it on YouTube. And I'm here to ask whoever's videotaping this if you'd have the courtesy of not taking out the context of what we're saying. We believe in what we do. We don't get compensated anything for doing this. I assure you, we're here because we believe that our country needs some help. We believe the state sheriffs are in a very lucky place to provide the assistance to our citizens. We believe that we are not just the sheriff of the county, but we're the watchkeeper. We are the people who, when something happens, we're the ones who say, you're on foul. We're the watchkeeper not just because we think we are, but because the Constitution gives us that little authority. The Constitution of the state allows the sheriff to represent you and to go to the state legislature and represent what your feelings are to our other elected leaders, parts of the legislative branch. We're part of the executive branch. And so one of the problems that we have, and every speaker up here has covered it, about the federal government. We are expected to enforce laws and policies which are not passed by elected leaders but made by federal bureaucrats, and that's the problem. That's a serious problem. We have bureaucrats in Washington, D.C., I assure you, that don't know if Mendocino ends with an O or with an A, but they're making laws that affect the national forests in Mendocino County. And it's a big problem, and I've certainly let it known to them who I am, and I'm watching what they do, and I welcome them. And if you're a federal employee in this room, I want you to know we are not against you. All we're asking is for the courtesy of you contacting us, coming to our office, or we'll go to your office, and sitting down with us and having a discussion of what you're trying to accomplish and what we are trying to accomplish too. And chances are we can figure out a way to make it work, and we're not going to trample the rights of the citizens that we're sworn to protect. That's what we're here for. And I'm not making light or trying to weigh heavy on a bumper sticker that we've all seen, but there is something that we have in common. We all love our country, but we fear some very important, very strong parts of our government. And that's why we're throwing the foul flag down to say our government agencies are running afoul, and we have the ability to be in the Huffington Post. Let me tell you, when you're in the Huffington Post standing up against the government, that says a lot right there. This is not a political year for any of us. We're not running for re-election at all. With the exception of one county in the state, all sheriffs run for re-election or initial election the same year as the governor. Now you might wonder what one county is a little different. That's San Francisco, and it's not working out for them too well right now. But But the reason we're doing this is because we do not want to be associated with any extreme organizations. We're doing this as sheriffs. We're doing this to say we have spent our career standing up for what's right and for what's wrong. And now we have the luxury of being in a position of saying you know, Governor, and the governor comes and he's met with all of us individually at meetings, and we have the ability to express our concern to him. And I know people in this room may have some bad words about the governor, and I'm going to tell you right now, I grew up in Humboldt County in a very conservative family. My mom's a retired school teacher, dad's worked in the woods. The Governor Brown from the 70s is not the governor we have right now. This governor is cutting costs, and he's cutting spending, and he has not cut law enforcement like he has cut other agencies. So I'm not, even though I'm a very conservative person, I'm certainly not going to criticize Governor Brown, because there's many people in Sacramento who are entrenched in the Democrat politics who are not very happy with Governor Brown. So that says something right there. And it does. Now, my father is turning over in his grave for me saying that. I want you to know that. Amen. Yes, I'm sorry, Dad. But I want to tell you about Mendocino County and what my problems are. And none of these problems are insurmountable. These problems are able to be solved if we could get the right people to the table to sit down. And I've been to Washington, D.C. a half dozen times trying to get the right people, and it just doesn't always work. Even when you make appointments and you fly all the way back to Washington, sometimes your reputation precedes you, and that person is all of a sudden busy because it's not just going to be an easy discussion with them. It's going to be, you know, I'm the sheriff of the county, and I want to know why these roads are being closed, because these roads are not yours. These roads belong to the citizens. And the conversations get heated at times, but on the good side, on the very positive side, there are bureaucrats who listen to us. And things could be worse. I'm not always a glass is half empty kind of guy. I think the glass is half full. And the fact that the state sheriffs now have a lands use committee, and we have constitutional sheriffs, which in the whole scheme of things doesn't sound very scary to me. It sounds like a very, very safe group of guys to hang around with. I'm going to guess there's more guns in this room than in my armory at the office. Because the Second Amendment does reign in these counties, I assure you of that. But as a sheriff, I have the legal right to know when a road is going to be closed on federal property. I have a legal right to know when a new gate is going up. I have a legal right to know when a cattle lease is being canceled for no reason. And these things are not occurring. The privileges that the federal government has had of this unencumbered policy making is really and truly about to come to a head. Because what we're saying is you don't have that privilege. You have to sit down with us and talk. And so when these gentlemen up here are begging for your help to stand with us, and I like that. I think it was Dave. Don't stand behind us, stand beside us. That's exactly what we're saying. When we write a letter to the editor and we tell you what the problems are, we're needing help. That's our SOS right there. To say, these are the problems we have, these are the people who are creating the problems, and will you help us? Because we know there's going to be people who go against us. We know that. And we're looking for a good representation of the people to stand with us to say, you're right, we will not have our rights trampled on. And that's exactly what's happened. The sheriff, thank you. The sheriff has two main responsibilities in his or her county. And we do have some female sheriffs in the state. We have some very good female sheriffs in the state. The sheriff, of course, protects your right. You don't need me to tell you that we enforce the law. That's what is most important that people think. But just as important as enforcing law is protecting the rights of the citizens. And that could be summed up why we're here. Because the rights of our citizens, the rights of timber growers, the rights of cattle growers or cattle raisers have been trampled on. And they've been replaced by rights of extremists, including commercial marijuana, growers. And the rights of commercial marijuana growers in my county last year seemed to be spiking, but this year things are a little bit more in check. But one of my concerns with the federal government is that in the Mendocino National Forest, a 92,000 acre crown jewel of our county, and on Mendocino's county side, they have one federal law enforcement officer to cover our fair share of the Mendocino National Forest. Well, it's not right. You can't say this is a national forest and not give it adequate law enforcement, because then the responsibility will come to us, and we're not going to turn away from enforcing the law. We're going to enforce the law, and we're going to protect your land. But it's not fair that the federal government claims it and doesn't give us the adequate resources to cover it. And when they say, thank you very much. So last year was a watershed moment for us with the Mendocino National Forest. And the marijuana operations were getting out of control with illegal aliens. I joked about we needed to set up a satellite office of the United Nations, because we arrested people from Bulgaria and Israel and England and Russia and Finland. I don't know what they are doing here. But we had 14 arrests from other countries in the Mendocino National Forest. And to say that this is a local sheriff's problem is a little bit outrageous. I would say that this is a problem that the federal government needs to spend more resources on. If the federal government is going to continue to list marijuana as an illegal substance, if that's what their choice is, if that's what their desire is, then they need to follow up. Because you may not agree with me on this one, but I encourage the federal government to come into my county and enforce marijuana laws on the condition that if they make an arrest, they prosecute the person in U.S. court. Because that's only fair, because what happens is, and it happens on a regular basis, whether you agree or disagree with legitimate medical marijuana, that really is a moot point right now. I've never grown it or smoked it, but it is the law of California. And are people abusing it? Of course they're abusing it. And people buy race cars that drive on the freeway and they break the law too. So we as government officials have to control people who are abusing the laws that we have out there. But what happens is the federal government will come in and they will make an arrest, and they'll take the report to the U.S. Attorney's Office, and the U.S. Attorney's Office will say, we're not going to prosecute, and so then the federal agency will take it to the local district attorney and ask them to prosecute. So what we have here is we have eradication in the name of the federal government, which is okay, and prosecution in the name of the state government, with no money coming into the state government to assist with the prosecution. Whether you agree or disagree with medical marijuana, I'm telling you, that in itself is not how the law was intended. The separation between the... Thank you. The separation between the federal government and the state government is very, very clear. And one of the issues that we have right now in going in front of the Congress, and Sheriff Lopi has been very, very strong on this, of writing very good letters. We love reading his letters. It's like they come from an attorney or something. They're great. Is the federal government wants to give blanket state and local enforcement powers to all federal peace officers, and that is wrong. That is wrong. Well, the state sheriffs, of course, wrote a letter to all of our congressmen opposing it. I took a different view. I said, wait a minute, let's tell them they're more than welcome to have federal or state and local authority, as long as they'll give our deputies federal authority. And everybody in the room said, that'll never happen. So I hope that doesn't come to, because right now what we have the ability to do, and I'm going to say right now that a sheriff that isn't here, but he's very strong, and is Sheriff Basinko from Shasta County. What we have the right to do as sheriffs is we can cross-deputize a federal law enforcement officer if he meets our criteria. Because right now, if we hire a deputy sheriff, we're telling our citizens, we believe this is going to be a good deputy sheriff for you. He's fair, he's going to tell the truth, he's passed the psychological, he's fit, he can do his firearms training, he can do everything. And what we're saying is, before you blanket deputize every federal law enforcement officer, let us continue to know who they are. We'll sit down with them, we'll interview them, because we do not want them to come into our counties and infringe upon our citizens' rights without us knowing exactly who they are, and there could be repercussions. Because when a law enforcement officer comes to your house, really and truly, you're going to submit, at least to whatever the law allows you to do and allows him to do. We want to make sure that we're letting the right people come into our county so our citizens' rights are not abused. That's very, very important. So, real quickly, what we did last year is 6 counties, Trinity, Tehama, Glenn, Colusa, Lake, and Mendocino. We put together our own local marijuana eradication effort in the Mendocino National Forest. It was referred to as Operation Full Court Press. In 3 weeks, we eradicated 632,000 marijuana plants. We removed 57,000 pounds of trash from the National Forest, 152 arrests, only 17% of those were illegal aliens. Actually, a lot of them were people from within the state or within a nation coming there because no one had enforced the law. And that's a very good representation of what we're trying to show the federal government. If you want to keep maintaining this property, why don't you do this? Because I want those tourism dollars to come back in my county. I want deer hunters to come up and realize the only other shots they hear are people who are shooting deer, not trying to scare them out of the National Forest. I want people to recreate in the National Forest. I want to preserve summer steelhead, which is in Trinity County. Trinity County, he's not here, but he was at a wedding, I think. In the northern part of the National Forest. These are all things we want to do, but the federal government has been very slow on the response to this. So when you have a congressman, and this is an election year, this is a very good year to be an American because we have the ability to sit down and talk with the people who are running and say, what is your stance on cross-deputizing every federal law enforcement officer? What is your stance on marijuana eradication? And make sure that if you have questions, you ask them, you get them answered. Right now, our Congressman, Mike Thompson, is doing a good job of listening to us. His son's a deputy sheriff in Napa, and so he has the sheriff's ear, and we're making some progress. So keep doing that. It's your responsibility. One of the other reasons I'm here is because the precious resources, the natural resources in the Mendocino National Forest have been shut down. We used in Covelo, if you've ever been to Covelo, I hope you have, we used to have wonderful mills operating, we had people employed, and there's no mills now. The only real jobs in Covelo, other than a couple grocery stores, are government jobs, teachers, road department, and our government was not built to hire more government employees, I assure you. My father always said the best day an American could have is a day that Congress is not in session. So I'm going to close with a couple important rules for me. And I would encourage you, and I'm going to stick around, challenge us on this and challenge me and say either you don't agree, and if you don't agree, why you don't agree. But the 10th Amendment, the States' Rights Amendment, is a critical issue for you to be aware of. The states' rights issue is, if you look at why the Civil War was fought, it wasn't fought over slavery. It was fought over states' rights.
That's right.
And the states' rights that we have crumbling and being taken away from us right now is another major reason that we are up here. We're a state, we're organized, we have our own government, and there's a clear separation between what the federal government can and should be doing as compared to what they are doing. There's a difference. And if you're not aware of this, you're in the wrong spot. But I would imagine if you're here, sitting here, you know this is happening. You know there are states' rights issues are on the forefront of some of the major battles that we're fighting with the federal government right now. Another major issue that we all have up here is the Second Amendment. And I'm not saying that lightly. You know, you might chuckle about having concealed weapons throughout northern part of the state. I'm telling you, the southern part of the state, they don't have the luxury of having sheriffs who understand that the Second Amendment allows concealed weapons to be issued to responsible citizens, and what we are doing is we're empowering responsible citizens to take over their own personal safety, because the truth is, if you see our patrol cars that say to serve and protect, I'm going to have a tough time protecting you when my closest deputy is 2 hours away. And so the Second Amendment is alive and well in Northern California, and that's another issue. The glass is half full. Appreciate what we have there, because there's many people, and you might have friends in Southern California who think we're just a bunch of gun-crazy idiots. Well, we're not. I don't have problems with my concealed weapons holders. I have problems with people who don't want to get a concealed weapon permit, but they go ahead and carry, and they're the ones who are causing problems. I'm going to close with a simple phrase from a country song, and I know that I'm following speakers who have quoted our forefathers, who've quoted the Bible and quoted things that are very, very important to us. But a country western song is written by Aaron Tippett, and it's very clear, and everybody in this room has heard it and you've sung along with it. You've got to stand for something or you'll fall for anything. That's where we are right now, folks. Thank you.